places like Bath and Twickenham and Wimbledon and all the rest had a miners' support group. A lot of them were women. And they knew in their hearts that Thatcher was trying to starve the miners back to work. Not for money, fighting for jobs to remain in what was, I have to tell you, having done 20 odd years down the pit, I'm not one of your romantic speakers who actually believed that it was a wonderful job. Oh no. But the camaraderie was something that you couldn't buy. Probably not to be repeated anywhere else. Certainly not in the Palace of Varieties, where everybody is scrambling for the last word or the first. In the pits, it was about being together. It was about looking after one another. And it was about fighting for one another, and if you weren't coughing your lungs up, you're able to think about that collectivism, which really should be at the heart of every socialist that you meet. That's what it is. It's about fighting for somebody else, and the 84 strike characterised that. And because we knew we were right, and it's been proved we were right. We were right about the police at Orgreave, where some policemen were writing down the same sentence about a miner. And I saw Jack Smith with a rock in his hand, and he threw it at our ranks. Every sentence began like that, just as it did at Hillsborough. All that has come puthering out. So people know we were correct. And it's not often when you strike that you can relive, have the reels rolled back in front of your eyes and know that everything that you said has come true, and that the establishment and those in the higher echelons of society were lying through the teeth. As I told Thatcher once, and this dodgy Dave, you wouldn't recognise the truth if it was sprayed on your eyeballs. And I got away with it. I think I'd said it so quickly that the speaker didn't latch on. Yes, it was a dirty, rotten year. But it was about something else as well. Let's not kid ourselves that it was just about the pits. Oh yes, the pits was important because in 72 and 74 another Tory leader had been kicked out of office because of the miners' victories. It was partly that. But it was also about setting a scene for the casino economy, which we weren't to learn about until later. It wasn't just about the pits, was it? Because the steel industry was smashed by the same man, McGregor, who they brought over from America twice. Just like a football professional. They paid money for him to come, $1.5 million, and that was a lot of money then. But it was about not just the pits. The pits was going to be very symbolic if the Tories could win, but it would lead on to something, a greater prize. And that was when the steel industry had gone and most of the shipbuilding had gone, and for all the women here that had connections with the textile industry, I don't know whether you realised it at the time, but as fast as they were shutting pits in Derbyshire, they were shutting textile factories at the same time. And the manufacturing base by and large was destroyed. As one very erudite fella said on the front row at our meeting at Bolsover this afternoon, it was about ethnic cleansing, Dennis. But not in Bosnia. That's what it was. When the welfares went, when our way of life went, because the tentacles of the NUM, you better believe it, didn't stop in the union box in a pit yard. That ethos of together and being one unit spread right to every pit village. But it ain't there now. And I never saw anybody. 30 years ago, I never saw anybody in the constituency that I represent in Bolsover with 25 pit villages or were pit villages. I never saw any young man or woman taking drugs. That was changed as well. Don't ever forget it. And when you see the pub shut in Shirebrook, they say, look at that den, bloody white swan there. I said, yeah, Thatcher shut that. Well, he said, well, it's only went last year. I said, she shut it. All part of that, destroying the culture. And that's another reason why people want to hear the story again and again, because they know in their hearts that everything they did was right. It was all about agony and ecstasy as well. Boy, did I have some agony, as we all did. The agony of seeing the deputies get an 82% vote to come out on strike and then throw it away. Chuck it back to Thatcher. And she gave them a paltry review. Do you know, Mr. Nacons, you can have a review for every pit. That's what we are prepared to do, providing you don't go on strike, because had they gone on strike, they would have pulled Nottingham out, wouldn't they? And then it would have been over. So for those doubters who actually believed that we were never in with a chance, by God, in August, we were singing a happy tune. It wasn't only just then, either. When the stocks were falling and she had to run to Gaddafi for more oil. There is a story about Gaddafi and Roger Windsor going for money for the miners. The truth is Thatcher didn't have to go. She had been on the phone to Gaddafi and said, look here, we're running out of oil. We need it. So he increased the volume. That's why it was closed. And it was even closer when it looked like there were going to be a second front in the first week in July, when I went to the Durham Miners rally and the sun was shining, and I said, the sun's out, the miners are out, and now the dockers are out. That's what we needed. A second front. What the hell were the TUC doing that they couldn't find a way to say to every union in that year, why did they say fill your boots, put in a freight train, twice as much as you thought of? The Tories would either have to have caved in, or we would have had allies. But it was only for a couple of weeks when the majority of the dockers were out. So there were occasions when we could have won. It would have been a glorious victory, and it might well have saved the manufacturing base. It would have saved some printers' jobs, because then she turned to Murdoch. And she says, now we've done the miners over, and we've got this sequestration system. You can take over. And so Murdoch was able to build at Wapping. Somebody set fire to a lorry. I escaped down the Tower Hill underground. I knew they'd rope me. I don't know who it was. But believe me, it was the same pattern. That's why I said in Parliament not so long ago, when we were talking about Phonak, in us sending back Murdoch from whence he came, and as a final humiliation, get Chris Huhne to drive him to the airport. So that battle was won as well, Thatcher. And that's how it set the pattern. If anybody thinks it was the miners in isolation, forget it. It was about setting up the casino economy, which she left to the very end. when she introduced what was known as the share-owning democracy, and she told everybody in Britain that we're going to sell off energy, we're going to sell off water, we're going to sell off fresh air if we get to it. She didn't last long enough, though, otherwise it would have been on the agenda. But they were going to sell them, and you're all going to own a little bit of gas and a little bit of electricity and a little drop of water. And within a few years, the shares had been sold on, and every single one of those public utilities is now owned abroad. And then she said, rid the regulations in the City of London. And she turned around and she says, we don't need manufacturing so much anyway. We have now got the invisible exports. That's what they call them, invisible. That was made by the City of London as all those people came across from America and elsewhere in order to inhabit this gambling den for the posh people on Millionaires Row, and will get invisible experts and balance the books. And now we're saddled with that mantra that pervades our society every day. And people that are working class talk, some of them talk about we have to balance the books. If there's anything that's been trotted out that's bloody dangerous, it's that. Every mortgage that anybody takes on is not balancing the books. It's a gamble. And if you think that in private industry they've got a little safe with 4 billion in here and 5 billion in another, and they say we're going to expand, open the safe and get that money. Of course they don't. They get it from somebody else's safe. Don't they? From punters. They don't operate by balancing the books in the private sector. They never could. And that's why one of the things that the Labour movement has to understand is that we've got to get away from this business of saying austerity, pay freeze, balance the books. We never balanced the books in the mining industry. Why? Because we were battling against Mother Nature. And Mother Nature sometimes, like it does on the surface, Mother Nature does some funny things, and a pit under public ownership could close. But because it was under public ownership, the strong helped the weak. And so in Durham, they'd have a pit that was running into trouble, and they'd say, we can carry it for another year or two because we've got pits making money down the road. That's what happened. And they didn't want that at all. Do you know what's happening now? They told us that pits that were uneconomic had to be closed. Now we've got North Sea oil companies with those little narrow seams of oil that can be exploited without taxpayers' money. So we've lived long enough to find that out as well. That's why we keep meeting. We keep meeting because it's a story of our age. And because now everybody's besotted by instant gratification. I come from a childhood which was based on the knowledge that you have to struggle for everything that you need. But today, we want it all, and we want it now. And on DFS, on the adverts that mirror our society, a man comes on and he says, do you want it all? Do you want it now? You can have it all and have it now at the DFS, because you'll not pay anything for the first year. That's where we've got to. So that great battle, which was fought in 1845, is a story that can be told forever. That's why really there's more books, more films, more plays about the mining industry than any other. Whether it deserves them or not is neither here nor here. But we know it's because of the danger but it's also because we fought together and we were prepared to eat grass. Now strikes last a day and then they turn it off. Now I'm not knocking them, I joined all these marches. If striking for half a day it'll do me. If I can get a strike for a few hours at that Sports Direct in Shirebrook, I'll join that one. With a 0-hour contract. Where have we got to? When now I went to the Labour Exchange as a young lad and went down the pit at 16 years of age, like all the people that left school at the time, and now you have to go to Blue Arrow or something direction to get a job at Sports Direct on a 0-hour contract where he can sack you on the spot and where a woman gave birth to a child in the toilets on New Year's Day. That's where we've got to. And that's why people are here at these rallies. Because they know it's a story that can't be killed. But it was one that we should have won. And would have won had we had some better leadership and a little bit more love. So I'm gasping for breath. But I know it's been worthwhile.